welcome back to the channel, fellow aviators, to episode 8. In today's episode, we are going to do the light transport unlock. Also, should have been the premiere of my new intro. A little excited about that. I had made my own intro, as you probably can all notice, and while I was generally happy with it, it was way too long, and I was looking to up the game a little bit, so hopefully you liked it. Also, this should be coming out the day after Christmas, so I hope everybody had a great Christmas, and if you're in the UK or one of their subsidiary countries, a happy Boxing Day. Having said that, let's just get right into it. All right, flying bulk cargo to another place in Africa I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. So just transport the goods to the destination, 2,300 credits. Let's get going.
Hi there. It's Widad. Now that you're all set up, let me go over the important details with you. Loose cargo on board. This is a very important shipment for one of our clients. Needs to get to Mbadifo Tatra promptly. Our sensitive cargo containers are built to handle slight turbulence, but maintain a constant flight speed and adapt to changing conditions. A prompt and safe delivery is key for the success of our business. You have all the pertinent information in your flight packet as a reminder. Safe travels.
All right, in the last episode, we talked about using the Garmin 1000 to make our life easier. So let's plan on doing that for our departure. So we'll set an altitude of 5,000 feet. You can see we're adjusting that in the upper right of the PFD. I am using my Honeycomb Bravo throttle control, but we could do that also as well on the actual Garmin 1000 screen. We'll also plan on a climb out altitude of, or airspeed, I should say, of, let's say 75 knots, since BY is 74. That should be good. That'll get us up to the altitude as quick as possible. And then once we get out to the runway, we'll set our runway heading, and then we'll take it from there. All right, let's get going.
Foxtrot Mike November Charlie traffic Cessna 5 Romeo. Golf X-Ray Echo is taxiing to runway 29er.
All right, let's get our track IR working, and let's get out of here. I think everyone's seen the pre-flight enough on this aircraft, enough to know what we need to do is get our transponder to alt. Let's do that. We need to set our flaps. We'll do that, and let's just go.
Foxtrot Mike November Charlie traffic Cessna 5 Romeo. Golf X-Ray Echo taking off runway 29er departure to the south.
And as usual, I think I'll just fast forward through the U-turn down here. All right, see you on the other side. All right, before we take off, we can also set our runway heading. And just a quick review, we've got our runway heading in there. Looking at the top of the PFD, it says heading in green. To the right, it says flight level change, 74 knots. So when we hit the autopilot, it will climb out holding 74 knots and straight ahead. All right, I think we're ready to go. All right, airborne. And let us hit the autopilot. All right, we got autopilot engaged. Turning to our heading and climbing up. Bring up the flaps. Let's get rid of the blue box X's. And while turning our heading, we'll start our left-hand turn. Looking down at the PFD, we're going to proceed. We're slightly off course what it wants us to do, which is the magenta CDI, or course deviation indicator. So we'll turn a little bit to the left. Of it, and we'll continue our climb up. Now at this point, we should just be able to press our nav function right here. And it should nav. So let's see what happens here. So we have GPS in white, heading in green, autopilot in green, flight level change green, and 74 knots green, all there at the top of the PFD. There we go. We see a flashing GPS, which means it's now switching to the GPS mode or the nav mode. Once again, down in the bottom, we see our course deviation indicator in magenta. And then also you see just slightly above it says GPS. So in any second now, we should start a slight right turn to get onto heading. So at this point, we're going to continue to climb up to 5,000 feet. Autopilot's doing a great job. And now let's use our Garmin 1000 to help set up our approach. So let's come down here. And what we're going to want to do is come over to procedure. hit enter, select approach, and now we want runway 25 because that's where it wants us to go. We'll hit enter. Of course, you could choose anything you would like. Let's hit straight in. Let's hit enter. Minimums, we don't have any. We're going to rotate all the way through, load or activate. It's going to give us a warning that's for visual use only. We'll hit enter one more time. And now, as you see, we're starting a slight left turn because it's now no longer bringing us directly to the airport, but it's bringing us to a point for us to conduct a straight-in approach to runway 25. Also, when we come back over here to this camera, to this camera view, right, we actually have a couple altitudes in here. So it's saying the top here is going to be at 1627, or not the top of the descent, but where it wants to put us to get us lined up to make a nice straight-in approach. And then the final will be at 852 feet. It's going to, if you go a little bit lower, it's going to say it's going to need to do a 443 foot per minute descent, which will keep us on a 3-degree glide path all the way in. And the top of descent is in 17 minutes and 9 seconds. So now we've got ourselves set up to fly this approach. And now we can let the autopilot do its work. So now we're 4,000 climbing 5,000. We're getting 750 feet per minute. And as we see, as we get to the top of 5,000, the aircraft will level up. And since we're no longer in flight level change mode, it will begin to accelerate. So it's not going to hold the 74 knots. That's only going to hold that just for as we continue until we get up to altitude. Words are hard. Now, the magenta boxes you see, that's a part of the Garmin 1000 software system. I'm not sure if there's a way to actually take those out. I don't see why you would. It's actually a benefit of actually flying in the Garmin 1000 series, especially if you're using the whole synthetic vision. Anyways, here we are, coming up 49. Now you see it's flashing to ALTS, Alt, and now it's going to try to hold the altitude of 5,000 feet. And since we have max power set in, it's going to continue to accelerate. So we'll just throttle down a little bit so the RPMs don't get away from us. Let's bring it down to 2,400. And now they're up at 5,000 feet. We can also, as we look down here just a little bit, I've got my track IR off as we're doing this. I'll pause that, we'll look down, and we will lean us out a little bit. Since we climbed up to altitude. There's a whole procedure on how you lean. We can go over that if you'd like in a future video, but we're just going to pull back a little bit and bring back our throttle again one more time, and that should reduce our fuel flow. And then at this stage, if we came down here, we would go onto one tank, start our timer, and continue on. So at this point, I think since we've got another 17 minutes to go, I'll probably fast forward through this portion, and I will rejoin you as we're getting a little closer to the top of our descent. So as we're waiting to come down, work was outstanding last week. I was working Monday through Thursday, and I say working with giant air quotes. I was on duty or scheduled to fly on reserve status Monday through Thursday. And luckily, they did not call, so I didn't fly at all last week. So today is December 22nd, Sunday, and I'm working to the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, and then I'm off for Christmas and the day after. And then we're a couple more days, and I'm off for New Year's Eve. So it's been working so far. I haven't really flown that much this month. I'm expecting to be called in. I go back on duty here in about 2.5 hours. You never know what you're going to get. You may end up with, the next 3 days, I may fly every single day. I may fly 1, 2, or 3 of those days. I may fly on a 1-day trip or a 3-day trip. But, all right, getting back to flying here. All right, so if we go back to the PFD here, we're just going to focus in on it. We are going to see a white diamond on the right side of our altitude strip. And as that white diamond gets right in the middle, right where the 5,000 is, we should now then start our descent. So coming up on the top of descent here, let's look over here. In 20 seconds, 19. And there you go. Now we have a magenta diamond. We got our vertical descent rate starting to increase. And now we are heading down to 1,600 feet, which is 10 miles away. Or I'm sorry, 10 minutes. Yeah, 10 miles away. Once again, words are hard. All right. And we'll be there, and it says 5 minutes. All right, so that's what's going on. So that's how you know that you're on profile. Now, what it will do is it will adjust the angle to keep us right on that profile. So as we continue to accelerate, it'll make its own adjustments. It'll change the vertical sync rate to keep us right on that profile. And as we talked a little bit about in the last episode, you do not need to fear about being in the yellow arc. It is the warning area. The warning area literally says in the definition, flight and turbulent conditions may result in structural damage, right? But we have no turbulence, so it's totally acceptable to go up there if we need to. Looks like we'll hold here around 120 knots, so just short of it, but we'll take the free air time, not air time, but the free speed to speed up our arrival. So we will now just continue on the way down. And as I pulled up the EFB, what I was trying to highlight is look what it wants us to do. It wants us to go to this waypoint, overfly the airport, make a teardrop entry back into the pattern, and then back into landing. A lot of work. What this is going to do is set us up a little bit further out, right onto a straight in approach. It's going to be very easy. We can do this, as I mentioned before, that any waypoint that's in the Garmin database, you should be able to make a visual approach. So really nifty feature, great way to fly. And so what we're going to want to do, though, is we're going to want to get ourselves set up to make this nice and easy before we kick off the autopilot, we'll get all of our flaps in, we'll get our speed under control, and then we'll disengage the autopilot, and it should effectively, even though we're hand flying it, it should be kind of trimmed out and right on glide path. So it should be a nice, easy approach for us. All right, let's switch camera views once again. Let's go back to this one right here. Once again, you can do this if you only have one Garmin 1000. It just makes it easier with 2 split screens here. So got another 2 minutes to go. And it looks like it's going to run us right down to the straight in approach point. That'll be at 1606. And then final approach point will be at 852. I think that'll... And we're trying to target here of 677 feet per minute. Let's come back over to 1. And that's kind of what we're getting, around 650 to 700, if you remember. All right. So I think we're set up. All right, and I will re-engage once again my track IR. It's easier if I just take it off as we're looking at the screens. So we'll get a slight adjustment there. All right, we're ready to go. All right, so 24 for 1,600 feet, so we can probably just start bringing our power back a little bit, and we're going to start slowing ourselves up. So that once we disengage the autopilot, we should be trimmed up, flaps are all set, speed's under control. So I'm looking to get probably right around when I get to that 1,600 mark. I'd like to be right at flaps 1. Once again, sorry, that's an Airbus term, first notch of flaps. And when do I want to put those in? If we look on the left side of the PFD on our airspeed tape, anytime we get to the top of the white arc. So right about now, we can put that in. So let's do that. First notch of flaps. Of course, once you do that, it's going to continue to decelerate because the increased drag. We want around, 75 knots or so. And as we get over close to the waypoint here, it's now going to start a slight right turn and get us lined up for the approach. There we go. All right, we can see the runway off in the distance. And you're noticing that we're continuing down. So just put in the bottom altitude, which was the 852, and it's going to bring us all the way down there. So you don't have to individually step it down from that 1,600 or whatever it was down to the 850. Just dial in the bottom altitude, which was 850 feet, or we're just going to put in 800. And then before we get to 852, we'll kick off the autopilot. All right, let's bring in our second notch of flaps.
Foxtrot Mike Alpha Delta Traffic Cessna 5 Romeo. Golf X-Ray Echo, 5 miles northeast 1300. Ford inbound to land runway 25.
And once again, once you bring in that extra flaps, it increases drag, which slows down if we don't make a corresponding adjustment in our throttle, right? And we really don't want to get below 65. Now, if we don't kick off the autopilot here, it's going to want to level us off at 800. So we'll just kick off the autopilot as soon as we get close down there. I mean, you could probably fiddle with it some more. You could put in 0 if you wanted, and then try to bring it all the way in, but it's not really meant for that. So as we come up on 800 feet, we'll bring off the autopilot. And then let's turn our flight directors off, which are those magenta bars. That will give us erroneous information. And now you see we're all set up. Right on final. It needs a touch more trim.
500.
Looks like we're going into some sort of dirt field. All right, speed looks good, around 70 knots. We got our 2 notches of flaps in.
Foxtrot Mike Alpha Delta Traffic Cessna 5 Romeo. Golf X-Ray Echo is on final runway 25 to land.
There's a little bush flying here, trees all over the place. Coming up on 70 knots. Bring out a little bit more throttle as we continue down. All right, cut power. All right, we'll bring up our little... All right, see if it wants to set brakes right here. And that's it. I guess we're right here. All right, excellent. All right, as always, let's see how we did. All right, sure, cargo integrity 92. I don't know what that means. 100% on the airline procedures, respect to condition of the aircraft, 98. I don't know. I'm sure how I could have landed smoother, but anyways, everything went perfectly on this flight. 100%. All right, I'll take it. S+. All right, 2,400 on the income. Slight increase because I'm a hero. Level 23. Excellent. All right, so I think that's going to be it for this episode. Once again, I think we're going to try to start a company. I believe it's just a matter of money. We also, off camera, unlocked the aerial advertising. But in fact, to do that, I'm going to need to get my tail wheel endorsement. But I think the plan for us is I'll run a couple more missions off camera. And then what I'll do after that is come back and we'll open up a company and take it from there. All right. Once again, I appreciate all the new subscribers that have been coming on the last week or so. Really appreciate you guys. Once again, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and let me know what you'd like to see or things I can do a little bit different for you or maybe highlight in the future. Anyways, if you've made it the entire way through, thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.